Welcome, everybody. I know many of you have been watching to see if it was white smoke or black smoke that emerges from our chimney here on the property tax discussion. Today, I'm really proud that the legislative work of the men and women who are here, white smoke has emerged from the ceiling. We have agreement on cutting property taxes for Colorado residents. The biggest winner, of course, will be homeowners across our entire state, businesses across our entire state. And I want to thank our legislative leaders who worked so hard on this. I want to thank Minority Leader Puglisi, Senator Kirkmeyer, Senator Hansen, Representative Frizzell, Representative DeGree Kennedy, Senator Pelton, and so many others, Speaker McCluskey, Senate President Fenberg, many others who worked very, very, very hard on this. And these property tax issues are challenging for a couple of reasons. The biggest one is, unlike other things, this is mostly a discussion of how it impacts local governments, not the state. Now, there's an asterisk on that. Absolutely, property taxes impact the School Finance Act and the state budget, but this is primarily a discussion of one body making decisions that affect over 4,000 different funding districts. Fortunately, we have people who have experience in local government in our legislature. We have people like Representative Frizzell, who was an assessor, Senator Kirkmeyer, who was a commissioner, Senator Pelton, who was a commissioner, Speaker McCluskey, who worked for a school district in a senior executive position. So we have people who can kind of bridge that gap, and now that they're at the state level, they're informed by how it interacts with the local level. We also deeply appreciate CCI and others that have been part of this discussion along the way. The Bipartisan Property Tax Commission deserves a lot of the credit for getting this a big part of the way down the field, right? I think when it came to property tax discussions, we started with the ball on our own 5-yard line. I think, you know, with Broncos here, we're doing football metaphors. So I think the Property Tax Commission got it down to the 20-yard line on the other side, and then this final work among our legislators really helped score a touchdown. And of course, hopefully there's an extra point for every Coloradan who saves money on property taxes as a result of this work. So I want to express my profound admiration and appreciation for the Republican and Democratic legislators working together, which I think fundamentally is the job Coloradans want them to do, to make Colorado more affordable, more livable, and really driving work together. I think more than ever, especially having seen what happened with AHH, there is no like Democratic or Republican solution on property taxes. It's a very complicated math problem, and legislators working together themselves and with local government, I think, have really rolled up their sleeves and found something that makes sense. One more point, the reason we're kind of here is we had a steady system in Colorado under the Gallagher Amendment, but it had problems. So it did one thing well and two things poorly. The one thing well that it did well, I don't think anybody would not deny it, is it kept residential property rates low. It did that well. It did two things poorly. One is it continued to jack up the rate on businesses, and that's why we have such a big gap in our state, the biggest in the country, between businesses and individual rates. It made us less competitive. The second thing it did poorly is it applied a statewide formula to everybody, which had a very negative consequences, especially in some of our rural funding districts. So I was among those, and there's probably some up here on both sides of the aisle that did support repealing that, but it was always a matter of what would replace it. And I want to thank our legislature for being so thoughtful on establishing what would replace it, and I really think that the taxpayers of our state are the big winners. Appreciate the work of both the Democrats and Republicans who worked on this, and I'll turn it over to President Fenberg.
Thank you, Governor, and especially thank you to the legislators who have been working on finding consensus and a middle ground on this incredibly difficult subject for many, many months, frankly, years. This has been an ongoing conversation here in the legislature. It's been an ongoing conversation at the ballot box. It's been an ongoing conversation for our special districts, our counties, our fire chiefs, our local communities, and most importantly, it's been an ongoing conversation at the dinner table and business owners. This is something that has really, frankly, perplexed us on how exactly to solve it. As the governor said, it's not only complicated, but it is state policy that at the end of the day mostly impacts and is regarding local governments. And we needed to thread that needle and find the right path forward. I think at times over the last several years, and definitely over the last several months and hours, we didn't think we were going to get there. And then we thought, I think we're going to get there. And then again, we thought we weren't going to get there. And here we are, and we got there. I'm incredibly proud of the work that so many folks have done, and it truly has been a bipartisan effort. I especially want to thank Senator Hansen for always believing that there was a path forward when everybody else thought there wasn't. And he really kept at it. And at times, we found it very annoying. And we said, Chris, I don't think it's going to happen this year, man. We're going to have to see what happens at the ballot. Or we're going to have to see what the next steps are after this legislative session. Or maybe there's a special session. I don't think there's going to be a special session, at least not on this issue. But I think he did an amazing job to keep everybody at the table and was persistent. And I also want to thank Senator Kirkmeyer, who came from the other side of the aisle and said, let's get it done. And if you know Senator Kirkmeyer, when she wants to solve a problem, she'll find a way to solve that problem. And I'm so glad that we were able to put some of our smartest members on both sides of the aisle to task on this job. Obviously want to thank the minority leader, Rose Puglisi, and Representative Frizzell for their work and their bringing their experience in their past lives to this to help us solve this problem as well from the House's perspective. You know, when HH had the results that it had, and we came in for a special session, everybody was grumpy. Everybody was saying, I don't know what we're going to do. There's clearly no path forward where we can find consensus. And then there was this idea of a commission. And I think half of us thought, okay, great. That's what you do. You study something when you don't know what the solution is and you don't want to admit failure. But we were honest and genuine, I think, when we put together that commission. It wasn't partisan. It was a mix of local and state and other folks. It was business owners. It was folks who represent low-income Coloradans. It was the districts that actually receive the money and benefit or get hurt by property tax reforms. And there are a lot of ideas that were thrown out there. Some of them absolutely are enshrined in this bill. We know there's more work to do, but I'm incredibly proud that that commission put politics aside, took a look at what was out there, analyzed them from an authentic place, and said, here's what we think we could do to move forward for the state of Colorado. And that's what they did, and that's what it means to be a leader and a public servant, and I want to thank everybody who served and worked on that commission. This bill is not perfect. There is no bill that is perfect. There are folks who are going to say, I don't like how this formula works, or I don't think that's the right trigger, or this is too deep of a cut over here, or not enough over there. But I will say that we found a path forward that I think is sustainable, and that is something that everybody can say that's a reasonable approach, and we no longer have to proceed or fear the fringes of the debate being the ones that take up the most space and the most oxygen in the room. And I think that's what our job is. Sometimes it's not pretty, especially in the last 3 days of session, but I'm really proud of all the folks who rolled up their sleeves to make this happen and get us to this bill that we have introduced here today. And I am confident we're going to get it across the finish line. It's going to mean that everybody can take a deep breath and understand what the rules of the road are, what the future holds, and how we make sure that our local communities are financially sustainable in a way that doesn't dramatically impact or take too much money out of the pockets of hardworking Coloradans and small business owners. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to everybody who put so much work and effort into this bill that we're going to be debating today. And with that, I want to hand it off to my partner in crime, Madam Speaker.
I don't know which crime anymore he's referring to, but there are plenty out there, I fear. Good morning, everyone. This is a good day for Colorado. I am so excited to see us coming together and delivering on one of the most important issues our citizens have faced. We have struggled with the affordability of housing, healthcare, childcare, the rising costs of living in this state, and property tax has been one of those significant parts of the puzzle, the piece that we needed to solve. Last November, when we came together, there was strong commitment from both sides of the aisle that we needed to work together. And while we reached a short-term solution back in November, it is because of that commitment, the extraordinary work of the Property Tax Commission, the group that sat at the table week after week, arm wrestled with one another to try and solve the problem, that we are here today. I particularly want to lift up my colleagues, Speaker Pro Tem DeGree Kennedy and Minority Leader Puglisi and Representative Frizzell. The commitment to bipartisanship in solving this problem has never been greater. And it is that kind of spirit that I believe has always been in our House, but could not be more visible and clear to the public than it is in this measure. I also want to lift up those in public education, our K-12 schools. I have heard, without fail, a strong commitment to ensuring that we continue to completely fund public schools at the levels we are today, that we remain committed to ensuring that none of our public schools feel the pinch of what a property tax reduction might look like. And I'm extremely proud of that. We have worked so hard to drive more funding to our public schools, and we can't back up now with a property tax compromise. Thank you all for being here today. It's an awfully exciting moment, and I am delighted to introduce Minority Leader Rose Puglisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm reminded as I stand here today of the journey this has been for all of us, and how different it was this time last year. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the bipartisan work that we have all done, putting politics on the side and really putting the people first. And I truly believe this legislation accomplishes that on property tax. And so before I was even sworn in and elected, Senator Byron Pelton, Representative Frizzell and I said, hey, what are we going to do about property taxes? Senator Kirkmeyer helped inform our decisions as well based on our local government experiences and tried to put forward legislation. And we were disappointed, and as freshmen, even though we're not new to government, we were new to the State House, and I think it was in the State Senate for Senator Pelton, and I think it was quite a journey for us to really understand what we could get accomplished and how we could get accomplished within the Capitol. And so I'm excited to see the journey has come full circle. Senator Kirkmeyer and I spent a lot of time on the road last summer talking about property taxes, and after special session, I will say I was really disappointed in the outcome because I didn't feel like we really accomplished what the people of Colorado sent us here to do. And I was excited by the conversations. I had Senator Fenberg in my office. He said he had never been in the minority office before. And I was really excited about that. But I think it was really important that we brought everyone to the table. And what you see here today is everyone being at the table to accomplish what we were sent here to do. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that was done by all of these members standing here, the governor, thank you for your leadership as well, and all the local governments, because I know how important it is that we provide services at a local level, but also balance that with tax relief for the people. And that's what we've accomplished here today. I'm incredibly proud to be part of this legislation and really appreciate the efforts of everyone standing up here to get that done. So thank you.
This is huge. We're talking about a huge property tax cut for property owners without crippling our state budget, which is where I felt we needed to get to. I feel confident that the state can do this without using Tabor surplus, without using general fund reserves, or needing to revert back to the budget stabilization factor. This is huge. This bill will reduce property taxes excuse me, in Colorado by $1.3 billion in the first year. we will be providing homeowners and business owners with immediate financial relief, fostering economic growth across our state, and providing stability in local communities. This bill also balances meaningful relief while ensuring the state can maintain its fiscal health, where the state of Colorado will be able to make critical investments still in higher education, in K through 12 education, in public safety, well into the future. I'm proud as a Republican that I was able to work with my colleagues, and in particular, I just want you to know that I spent about 14 hours on the phone all day long yesterday with Senator Hansen and Mr. Mark Ferrandino, who is the director of the Office of State Planning and Budget. Literally, we had our phones on, we were talking all day, and then it started again this morning at about 5:30? About 5:30 a.m. We were able to, working with my colleagues, secure the largest property tax reduction in 20 years since Governor Owens for seniors, for younger new homeowners who are just starting their family, and for hardworking tax-paying Coloradoans. This will make a difference. Unlike deals in the past, several years, this will provide a long-term, permanent solution and will be simple and easy to understand for every Colorado property owner. Your taxes are going down. And working with stakeholders, and we worked a lot of stakeholders, but in particular yesterday, I was on the phone a lot with Colorado Concern, and yes, to get to good policy, you've got to work with those who don't necessarily support what you're doing, but should have a voice in the system and a voice in the process. And I also just want to say thank you to Governor Polis. He came through yesterday at a very critical point, and because of that, we are getting to a 25% rate on non-residential, so commercial, in 2 years. The cap on revenues is down to 5.5 for local governments. There will be no Tabor surplus, no general fund reserves, and basically, other than about $20 million that we could all agree to in 2024, there will be no redistribution of state income and sales tax revenues to local governments. We worked with everybody. And I'm going to hopefully eliminate a question that I think is probably coming at some point, mostly because I was extremely critical of this last year and the year before. The last 3 days, really? Really? The last 3 days. Here we are again in the last 3 days. And what the heck? Where was that stakeholder process? I can already hear it coming. I will tell you that in the last year, you heard from my other colleagues. This discussion started last year, a few more days earlier than this, but about this same time. And it continued through the summer into a special session where we all had a lot of talk about property taxes and how to get to the reduction and what we could do for our citizens. And then we created that special commission, that special tax commission. They traveled around the state talking to stakeholders, talking to people in the public, talking to private property owners. And in the last week, I feel like I've been joined at the hip with CCI. So thank you, Kelly, from CCI. They are supporting this. Colorado counties. I've spoken with CML, Colorado Municipal League. I informed the Special Districts Association, but we've talked with the business community. We've talked with realtors, talked with chambers, talked with the Metro Chamber. Yes, talked with Advance Colorado, talked with Colorado Concern, and talked with folks from Bell Policy. All of those conversations have been going on over the last week, and certainly more intensely over the last 4 days. I feel like we did our job on stakeholdering this and listening to everybody, even those that don't agree with us, to make sure that their viewpoints were heard within this bill. And I feel confident that they are. So, with that, I would like to introduce my colleagues, Senator Chris Hansen, who has had a tremendous effort in getting this to where we are today, and I'm very thankful for that as well. Thank you.
Well, a very good morning to everyone. It is such a pleasure and honor to be part of this group to bring forward this extremely important bill. It has been a labor of love for me, really, for the last 6 years. And I don't want to forget our good friend Bob Rankin this morning either, because we started this work first bringing forward a bipartisan measure to repeal Gallagher. And as the governor rightly said, it was always the intent then to have a replacement. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a long-term replacement negotiated for the last several cycles. Today, we bring you that long-term replacement. So this is the next step in a 6-year arc on this work, and I think a massive step forward for the taxpayers of Colorado and bringing relief to folks who need it the most. I was so proud to chair the Property Tax Commission, working with my good colleagues from the House, Representative DeGree Kennedy, Representative Frizzell, Mark Baisley from the Senate. And we started back in December, day in and day out, looking at every idea that was out there, turning over lots and lots of rocks to find the best ideas for Colorado. And I think today is the culmination of that effort, and we bring forward a package that is sustainable and balanced. And I'm so proud of the work of the Property Tax Commission. And we'll continue our work, actually, after session's over, continuing to study and look at some of the ideas that weren't ready for this particular bill. This is significant relief. As you heard Senator Kirkmeyer mention, $1.3 billion next year. This is a significant package, and importantly, it is focused on helping low and middle income households. One of the important provisions of the bill is that all homes under $700,000 will get 10% reduction in their taxable value. 10% off the top for every home under $700,000, and then it continues at that level for homes over that mark. But that means that low and middle income families are going to be especially helped with this approach. The other thing that was mentioned is that it maintains a sustainable approach to K-12 funding. We had massive bipartisan agreement that we will not recreate the negative factor the very moment we just got rid of it. And there are initiatives on the ballot that put us in danger of returning to a negative factor. This General Assembly, this governor is committed to making sure that does not happen. And this Senate Bill 233 ensures that we have a sustainable approach for K-12 funding. It also avoids the mistakes that some other states have made, like California with Prop 13, of putting in formulas into the Constitution or into statute that are inflexible and that hurt local services and education funding for decades to come. California already proved it doesn't work. Why would Colorado follow that example? Well, we're here today on a bipartisan basis to say we are not going to do that. We are going to make sure our schools are funded. We are going to make sure that we have a sustainable path forward. So a huge thank you to my co-sponsors, a huge thank you to the governor's leadership, and the hundreds of hours of stakeholder engagement that we had in just the last few days. And if something's not apparent, there's nothing like a deadline to focus the mind. I sometimes think we're like procrastinating high school kids getting ready for their finals week. Once the deadline is here, everyone focuses and we get to an agreement, and that's exactly what you're seeing. But this is not a last 3-day bill. This has been a conversation that has been going on for years, and I'm so happy to be a part of the culmination of this effort. Thanks for being here today, and I'm pleased to turn the podium over to Representative Lisa Frizzell.
Well, I am just so honored and excited to be standing here in front of you today, and I have to say what a long, strange trip it's been. You know, why is it important for there to be equal representation from the Democrats and Republicans on this bill? It's because we represent the diversity of this state. And this bill represents the diversity of this state. And I'm talking about economic diversity as well as political diversity. One of the reasons why Gallagher needed to be changed was because it was no longer helping out a large portion of our state. It was creating a lot of issues. I sat on the Property Tax Commission. I was very honored to represent the House Republicans on that commission. And One of the things we heard over and over and over again as we run around the state was, we want local solutions. We want the state out of our business. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about this bill is that it does provide local solutions and puts property taxes more and more, decisions on property taxes more and more in the hands of citizens and those businesses in those areas. The commission was a really good first step, and there's been a lot more work since then. I want to really raise up Representative Degree Kennedy, who reached across the aisle to me and said, "Do you want to work on this?" And I said, "By golly, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here in this building, is to work on this problem." So I really want to thank you very much. It's been a great partnership. And I just want to close. This bill is for the good people of Colorado, for its citizens, for its businesses. And I'm so grateful for the leadership. I'm grateful for my minority leader who supported me when I'd say, "I've got to run out to a meeting," and she'd say, "Go." So thank you so much to the governor and the leadership in both chambers. And we're so proud to bring this bill to the citizens of Colorado. And with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Representative Degree Kennedy.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you for the kind words, Representative Frizzell and others. A lot has been said about the stakeholding process that led us to this point, but I just want to say it one more time. Even after we completed the work of the Property Tax Commission, there was so much more work to do, and that was where Representative Frizzell and I really jumped in. And we hosted countless meetings with all the local government groups representing counties, cities, special districts, and fire districts in Colorado to grapple with what is a very tough choice. These are not easy solutions that we're talking about here. What we're talking about is finding out how to balance the needs of funding our school systems, the needs of funding our fire districts, our county governments, our city governments, with the real pressures that taxpayers are facing, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, to keep up with the high cost of living and doing business in Colorado. And I am proud of the solution we reached. I also just want to recognize the partnership of two other folks that really played an instrumental role in this process. Scott Wasserman of the Bell Policy Center and Lauren Furman of the Colorado Chamber were instrumental. They were in every conversation for weeks helping us bring this together. Now, these are folks that had to set aside a few differences of opinion, but they were able to do that because together with the local governments we worked with, we were united around a common goal. We needed a responsible alternative to some ballot measures that would have had devastating impacts on the state of Colorado, and that is what we are achieving here today. So I will leave it at that and hand it over to another great partner in this process, Senator Byron Pelton.
I'm very grateful about this wonderful tax bill that we've been able to reach across the aisle and discuss. And really, I want to say thank you to everybody who's standing up here who would hear me always say, that's not going to work in rural Colorado. We don't have the revenue that the Front Range has. We really need to protect our services that we provide in rural Colorado. And I'm up here to thank everybody up here, especially Chris Degree Kennedy, who would put up with my sarcastic humor all the time when he would call me or text me or anything like that, and my colleagues in the Senate and the House that are already up here we sat at a Starbucks table and wrote on a napkin on pretty much what's in the bill now, and it's great. I really want to also say thank you to the Tax Commission to make sure that we had 5 county commissioners on that tax commission to really represent what the state economy is like all the way across the board. And CCI has been great. CCI, Kelly and I have been on the phone probably weekly for the last 3 weeks, or every daily for the last 3 weeks. And also Lauren Furman from the Colorado Chamber, who would bring me into meetings and would not let me leave until we came up with a solution. So I'm just so appreciative about what we're doing. Somebody like my father, who's going to be 71 in September, and his property tax who's a retired man, property tax went up like 46%. And we had to figure out a way so he could stay in his home. And this is a big deal. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and this is a great bill.
Great, and appreciate Senator Pelton. Thanks for your advocacy for rural Colorado. That's another important aspect of this agreement. It's not just D's and R's agreeing, it's also figuring out something that works for urban, suburban, and rural Colorado, as if the rest wasn't hard enough, and this does, and we're very grateful for your work and the work of others making sure this works for very different economic situations and balances between commercial and residential and special district considerations across the state. As one of the leaders said earlier, I think it was Senator Fenberg, I mean, I'm sure there's someone somewhere that won't like this in some district, but I mean, generally speaking, this meets the needs of a very diverse state, and I really want to, certainly more than the status quo does. Certainly more than the status quo does. So happy to answer any questions. Does he? Oh, Marianne.
Yeah, $1.3 billion that this is going to cost. Where is that coming from? And my second question, what's your message to voters, given that they're going to see one and maybe two ballot measures that are running kind of counter to this?
Well, I'll let Senator Kirkmeyer address the budgetary aspects, and anybody else who cares to. I would just say, remember that the money, the cuts that were done in the past were temporary, and so the 1.3 billion, we have done that for last year. Absent that, homeowners' taxes would have gone up this year, even though it's the same assessment period. This goes beyond just continuing the rate cuts. It goes beyond the value of that because it's a long-term solution. And I'll turn it over to Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Governor. Where the money comes from is a portion of it will come from the state education fund. Not all of it, but a portion of it that we know, again, to ensure sustainability of that state education fund and to ensure that we do not have a budget stabilization factor. We are all committed to no more budget stabilization factor. So, and then there will be some general fund monies. I mean, if you go back and look at what we did in our other legislation that was passed, we used some general fund monies. And then Director Ferrandino and I and the rest of the Joint Budget Committee will be checking the couch cushions throughout the state and in every department. We're going to be going through everything to figure out where we make this work. And as I said to Director Ferrandino just yet this morning, we will make this happen. It will work for Colorado, and we won't put the state in a critical situation with our budget.
Jesse?
Kind of related to Marianne's second question. This is for the Republicans up here. Michael Field says he wants
Gotta go, third reading.
Yeah,
we're done pretty good.
Michael Field says he wasn't part of this negotiation, and so I don't know if that's a suggestion that he's going to move forward with initiatives 50 or 108. But if he does, will you, as a group, the Republicans working on this bill, commit to speaking out against those proposals? Will you fight those if they are on the ballot?
Well, while they're thinking about that, let me tee this up. This solves the problem that Colorado voters are concerned about. It puts very reasonable caps on increase on property taxes. The reason that many people were out there with ballot initiatives on the left and the right is they were very dissatisfied with the status quo. Again, this agreement can't please everybody in the world, but the fact that you have such strong agreement between Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, that this addresses the underlying issue we all hear about from our constituents, which is that property taxes went up too much, really is a huge step forward in actually solving these issues for people around the kitchen table.
Thank you for the question. It's about whether or not we would support 108 if it comes forward. Am I correct? Or 50? Or 95, or any of them that are coming forward. I will just tell you, I am not going to speak for all Republicans. I'm only going to speak for myself. I haven't even read those provisions. I've been a little busy down here at the Capitol doing Joint Budget Committee stuff, and seriously, we're in our last 3 days. We were here the other night till about 2 o'clock in the morning, so we were here the other morning until 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I have no commitment on that. I have not made a commitment on that. Again, I haven't looked through it. I think Advance Colorado is working to do what they feel that they're hearing from the people of Colorado. And I will say for me, I started off my comments by saying, for me, there were certain things that I needed to have for me to be on this bill. I feel very confident, again, that we will not jeopardize our state budget, that we will not cripple our state budget. We will not go to a budget stabilization factor. We will find what we need to find to make this work so that the people of Colorado truly, truly get property tax relief now.
Why wasn't Advance part of the negotiations? Were they interested in being part of it, or did you guys see them as being part of it?
Again, the question was with regard to why wasn't Advance part of the negotiations. In some respect, they were. They weren't in the hourly 15-minute negotiations that we were having all through yesterday, but we did have some information from them. They were willing to come to some kind of compromise and try to get there. We think we got very close. I'm not sure that they feel that way, but they had some numbers and some things that they were working on. And as you heard from me, in working with folks from Colorado Concern, I was under no illusion that they were going to say they were going to support this, but it's important that we hear from the other side, that we hear what they have to say, and because they have good ideas too. And so getting to 25% on the non-residential is because Colorado Concern was involved, and I think to some degree Advance was also involved. But did I speak to them directly during the negotiations? No, I did not. I mean, I had some text messages, that type of thing. So again, I think we heard where they were willing to try and get to. I sincerely appreciate their efforts as well. It makes this bill just that much better.
If I may just quickly add, I did talk to Advance Colorado on 2 separate occasions directly, and they made it clear that they wanted to move forward with 108. I guess they'll still need to make that decision. I made it very clear that we didn't think that would be sustainable for the state budget or for education. So did talk to them directly. They were part of this process as we worked on this for the last couple of months. Either.
One more thing, I would just say, look, legislators have the art of the possible to string together a coalition to pass bills. That is not something that outside orgs have to do as part of their job. I think that these legislators, Republicans and Democrats, worked exceptionally hard to find the common ground and meaningfully solve this issue for Coloradans in a way that threaded the needle and built that coalition that they needed to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Very happy to address that one. We are making sure that what we're doing in this bill is not going to cause a problem for existing issuance of debt for any district. And so really important part of this, it's to me one of the big downsides, additional downsides of the ballot approach is that it doesn't take into account existing bond issuance and that those bonds now could have very high risk premiums if the ballot initiatives move forward. That's a big problem for development in the state. We made sure in this bill that we're not going to have any problems with existing debt issuance.
A little louder, please.
1.3 billion reduction, right? The first year, 1.3 billion reduction, but down, right?
That's, compared to current law.
3.2, 3.3 increase, is that right? So it's still a 2 billion increase, is that right?
Well, this package is significantly slowing the rate of increase. But you're right, their property taxes, as values have changed, as inflation has had an impact on the market, there still is a nominal dollar increase there, but this package is providing $1.3 billion of reduction from what otherwise would have happened without this bill. So that's where that number comes from.
And just to be clear on that, that's not because property taxes went up, it's because values of properties went up. And so that's, I guess that other element of why we're all here and why this looms so large for Coloradans is we had a very unusual assessment period where property values went up very high double digits, 35, 40%. That is what put several exclamation points on this discussion and one of the things that brought the legislature together around providing relief.
On the dollar side of things, what is the dollar amount that an individual homeowner might expect to be reduced into this versus the status quo? And then secondly, if you want to wait going forward, like what is the campaign against that going to look like? Are you all like?
Yeah, and Nick, thanks for that question. So we do have some very detailed information we can share with you of what this looks like for different home values. Obviously, there's a mechanism here that's the first 10% of the first 700,000. So if your home is worth less than 700,000, you are going to get that 10%, full 10%. If your home is worth more than 700,000, it's going to start to diminish as a percent of your value. So there's a very clear it depends when it comes to this answer, but I'd be happy to share with you that whole chart of kind of what it looks like for different levels.
Let me just describe that one. So let's say you have a $1.2 million house. It knocks 70,000 off the value, if I'm doing my math right. So, and if it's a $400,000 house, it knocks 40,000 off. This was kind of a flaw in the short-term relief because we actually have in the state some very low-value homes. And while we all want tax relief for everybody, maybe they didn't even go up a lot, and then it had a really weird impact on local taxing districts. So this makes a lot of sense, and appreciate their work on that. Well, we can't. We're not here. Here, I think the legislature is doing what legislatures should do, which is solving the problem, creating good policy. Again, I think that takes down the temperature on everybody on the left and the right that's running around out there saying there's a huge problem looming on property taxes, because fundamentally they've come up with a thoughtful, bipartisan approach to replace the Gallagher Amendment with a meaningful mechanism to not only provide property tax relief, but to keep property taxes low over time across the state of Colorado. Thank you all.